You might have heard about all those anti-racism protesters destroying, defacing, or removing statues in several places around the world, most particularly the West. It is interesting to see the rebellious movements that swore to protect the art and speech and all things that were counter to the basic norms of the society have morphed into what appears to be an iconoclasm against the West. But is it really iconoclasm? You might have heard the news about those destroyed statues and opinions by various political commentators on whether such destruction of the history is good or bad. Let's not do that here. Let's understand what is happening. What is the philosophy behind this supposed iconoclasm and what is to be interpreted from this phenomenon? For an example, take Thomas Jefferson, a man not particularly religious, the poster child of US atheists and secularists for advocating separation of church and state, an intellectual, a founding father, and the third president of United States of America after its independence, and in eyes of many people and progressives, a white racist slave owner. A target of the crowd, Jefferson was someone that United States cherished, especially the whites. Jefferson was behind the United States' Declaration of Independence from the British, which was formally announced in the famous document, which contains the line most familiar to all of us: "Behold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness." Now the statue of Jefferson lays rolling on the stairs, fallen by the grace from the egalitarian progressive movements which accuse the United States for covering Jefferson's racist past. Whether Jefferson was a racist or not is an interesting question. Jefferson writes in Notes on the State of Virginia that blacks were inferior to whites. Blacks were not reflective, he argues, and while they required less sleep, they were more predisposed to sleep when they were not diverted or doing some work. The blacks, according to Jefferson, were devoid of deep imagination, were alien to creating art and music, and Jefferson wrote how he never saw them utter any thought beyond plain narration. Jefferson, though, believed that blacks were equally brave as whites, more adventurous, and had better ears for tune and time in regards to music. Jefferson was cautious in branding blacks as inferior to whites, and he wrote how many of them possessed integrity, benevolence, unshaken fidelity, and gratitude. However, he wrote that he suspected, observing the blacks for a century and a half, that they were most possibly inferior to whites in mind and body, genetically. While Jefferson believed in eliminating slavery and was for emancipation of black slaves, he was against them mixing with whites and thought they had to be removed beyond the reach of mixture to not affect the dignity and the beauty of the whites. Jefferson believed that blacks must be helped so that they regain their strength and should be extended alliance and protection till then, but they must be sent away from lands, and instead whites must be brought in to replace them. Of course, Jefferson was not successful in doing that. People with very different perspectives and different lenses towards history may not have same historical idols, and that does not even include their politics, which determines the actions of many. But however, it is quite clear that a chapter in history is coming to an end. Whether the respect for people like Jefferson or historical leaders is an established institution in the United States and other countries or not, is not even known. To call this removal of statues iconoclasm. But what it currently is a chapter that ends the novel of post-enlightenment. Eventually, the liberalism propagated by the French and European revolutionaries ends with destruction of the other side of post-enlightenment, which is not surprising, for even the Enlightenment liberals smashed the historical artifacts during their time, while a large, vocal section of society strives to turn the legacy of past heroes into dust, or even worse, a lesson on what to not be, for reasons more or less justified in case of individual examples. It shows that the liberal idea of peaceful coexistence without trading away principles is merely a myth. The liberal society requires all sacred to go away, whether that is actually sacred or not, and this step is a logical outcome of that. Here it is not carried out by the liberals as much as by the intersection of the liberals and the progressive left. The American dream, or at least its illusion, has ended. We must really ask now whether it existed in the first place. There is no conservatism from here. There is only a power struggle. When one hero is removed, the other fills its place. As Jefferson and others lay on ground, who would replace them? Stalin, Marx, some black feminist woman, some transgender athlete, or a normie? Whoever it would be partly the product of the establishment with the false narrative of being a revolutionary.